Hey everyone, welcome to the KE Report and a company update from Kootenay Silver. Chatting with the president and CEO Jim McDonald. Jim and I have a fair bit to talk about, recapping news over summer where the company released the Maiden Resource Estimate at the Columba Project and also started drilling a 50,000 meter drill program, all focused on expanding on that maiden resource. Kootenay Silver is traded on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol KTN and the OTCQX under the symbol KOOYF. Jim, let's start with this maiden resource at Columba. The resource came in at 54 million ounces silver at 284 grams per ton silver. Jim, just take us through how many meters, how many holes went into this resource estimate, and really your just overview of this maiden resource, please.
Yeah, great, really great start. We were shooting for a maiden resource right in this range, and we got it. And we're very happy about that. Excellent grade, really excellent widths on the veins too. The average overall for all of the different zones is 5 to 6 meters true width, which is great. Within that, of course, on our some of our principal veins, like the D vein, that the D vein structure contains 60% of the ounces so far. And some of the zones there are as wide as 45 meters truth and over 200 grams silver. So some tremendously thick zones within some of these structures really bodes well for the potential economics of whatever we find. And also all of the resource bodies that the different zones that went into this resource calculation are open. We haven't found the limits of any of them. So there were 53,000 meters of drilling went into that maiden resource estimate with over 214 holes in all. And so we've now done a financing at the end of June, $20 million, and we have embarked on a drill program, stage 50,000 meters. So we've got financing for approximately the next 50,000 meters of drilling. That's already started at the end of July. We got 2 rigs going now. There's going to be steady drill results coming out from now for the next 8 to 10 months.
Jim, just a little bit more insights on this resource then of this 54 million ounces. We have talked a whole lot about all the different veins that you have labeled with different letters. I know the D vein has been a big focus for the company, but what's the allocation of where the resources are comprised in terms of the different veins?
Yeah, so D vein is the principal vein so far, with 60% of those resource ounces are sitting there. It's it's wide open along strike and to depth. And the next after that would be what we call the Lupe and B like Bob. There's a set of veins, a corridor of veins there, and then the next most abundant would be the historically worked vein called F. So those three structures are the principal focus for approximately the next 20 to 30,000 meters of drilling. Will be going really focused on those three structures to find the limits of what's sitting there already.
Jim, what about these different zones? You mentioned the different zones in the resource. How many zones are you talking about? And when people think different zones, they think that they might be far apart. But from my understanding, this is all in a pretty tight area.
Well, yeah, these are all within sort of 5 to 6 or 700 meters of one another in a straight line, and from the center point, let's say. So, yeah, all readily accessible. And the key on these it's a vein district is what we've got emerging here, really, and classic vein district in Mexico. And when you're dealing with these vein districts, you typically have some key structures or veins that contain the bulk of the ounces. For example, on the Panuco discovery in Mexico, which is now a deposit that's over 300 million ounces, a silver equivalent, they had one discovery, one zone containing 100 million ounces in one zone. That really makes a difference, both in building ounces and, of course, economics of development. Then The Las Chispas mine that Coeur Mining just recently bought hosted 140 million ounces in the resource category at the time of purchase, and the ounces were concentrated in one area. So a few principal veins where 80% of the ounces were to that date. So this Columba system is no different. You get key veins and they'll really bulk up the ounces and they'll make everything else you find work. And the D vein structure is one of those, obviously for us, as it's containing 60% of those ounces. And the zones are still open in all of these veins. The bodies that made up the maiden resource, that is, they're still open. And so the immediate focus here in the first 20 to 30,000 meters is just continue stepping out from the edges of those zones and finding the limits. That's what we call that real that's low hanging fruit. So high probability targets, obviously, and real low hanging fruit for the first sort of 50 to 60% of the program.
Okay, that's what I wanted some more information on as we move over to this 50,000 meter drill program. You have two rigs turning, but out of that 50,000 meters, what's the allocation going to be? It sounds like you're going to be spending most of those meters, or at least a fair number of those meters, simply around the resource on that, as you said, low hanging fruit.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That the resource bodies are all wide open. It's just a simple matter of stepping out at roughly 100-meter step outs at a time and continue marching along like that until you find the limits. And that's the program. It's pretty straightforward. These veins are quite predictable, got great continuity, and so they're quite predictable that way. Also, very important on this resources was noted by the QPs who did the estimate was the grade consistency across the structures is really good as well. And just a couple other things that need to know about the resource estimate. We used a cutoff of 150 grams per ton silver, which is a real reasonable cutoff for underground vein type deposits to use. And also, we used a $26 silver price.
So Jim, okay, fine. You're spending most of the meterage simply just expanding around the low-hanging fruit, the resource that you have a good handle on. What about going to depth though? I see it mentioned in a number of news releases that it's also open to depth. So how much are you going to be drilling deeper too?
Well, quite a bit will be going to depth. We've before the start of this current program, we had one hole on that D vein that essentially doubled the depth potential and still wide open. So most of the resources within the sort of upper 250 meters of the vein system. And on that D vein, we've got one hole that's down, takes it down to over 500 and hit the structure, real nice strong structure there, hit a cavity where the principal part of the vein was. So we only, we got low grade silver there and we picked up some increased base metal as well. The principal part of the vein where we expected to see the grade was a natural cavity. But what it told us is that structure is still really strongly developed it down at that depth and really opened up the depth potential there. So yeah, we are definitely going to depth at the same time here. And much of the D vein will be chasing these thickened zones where we've got intercepts like 34 meters of 500 grams, and the other area where we've got that 98 meters of 211 grams, which was true thickness of over 45 meters in that case. So those thickened zones have a trend to them going to depth, and we'll obviously be following those trends as well. And the way it stands, we've got designed over 20,000 meters just on that D vein, just to find the limits of what we already have.
Jim, is there any other exploration going on into areas that don't have this much drilling or maybe have never been drilled before on this project? More of the true exploration type drilling?
Yeah, we'll be doing a little bit of that. The immediate focus though is on just finding the limits of what's already there because that's your highest probability of adding ounces per hole by doing that. But yeah, there are quite a number of other areas that haven't even been drilled yet. We call them, we've got in our slide deck, we have a slide there that shows our proposed 2025 priority targets, it's called. So it lays out very high priority, high, medium, and lower priority targets and a approximate estimate of how many holes and meters we're going to be putting into each of those areas. So pure exploration, we've got about 20 holes designed for around 10,000 meters on things that haven't even been looked at yet.
Okay. Man, you're going to have a lot of news coming out then. How long is it going to take to drill this 50,000 meters?
It will be going next 8 to 10 months drilling.
On the back of that drilling, do you see updating the resource considering you're almost doubling the amount of meterage that will be drilled on this project? And on the back of that, would you think about putting out some sort of economics?
Yeah, the objectives are here is to grow the size of this thing, get it as close to 100 million ounces as we can after this drilling, evaluate where we are and whether we can justify with this number of ounces we have advancing to a PEA. But so those are exactly the steps that we're after here with good drill results and in a resource update. We really hope that we're at the stage where we can go right into a PEA at that time.
So then, Jim, just a quick question on that financing that you closed over summer for $20 million. Can you give us insights on where the interest came from? A lot of new entrants into the stocks, a lot of current shareholders, just who took part in that deal?
Real mix of everything. So current shareholders in there for sure. New interest as well. A lot of new money and some generalist money starting to come into the sector. Obviously, since that financing, I mean, things were breaking out and taking off in the silver space, but they've really accelerated since then. So more and more generalist interest coming, and then of course, a lot of the resource focused precious metal and silver focused funds were in as well, and many of which were been supporting us over the last several years, which was we're very thankful for, obviously.
Well, it's definitely a bull market right now. A lot of stocks are running, a lot of money's being raised, and I think now is the perfect time for you to have such a big drill program focused on expanding this resource, the main resource that was announced over summer. I'm going to post a link to the Kootenay Silver website so everyone can read over all those news releases from the summer period. And please send me any follow-up questions you have for Jim. I'll get those addressed for you and also definitely follow up as this drill program progresses and when we start to see some results. So, Jim, thank you again very much for this update today.
Yeah, appreciate the opportunity, Corey. Thank you.